So good morning, everyone. Welcome to the 2026 Spring Seminar. It's fantastic to see so many people here today. Thank you so much for travelling from far and wide. I know there's some people who've come quite a long way today, including some good speakers, so thank you so much. It's really fantastic to see you bring your curiosity, your ideas, and your willingness to connect about all things nature, biodiversity, and community today. So today's a really special day. We've curated a space to get together where we can listen, learn, and ask and network. So please do make the most of today. So that involves some fantastic presentations that you'll hear soon. We've got stalls next door, so please do check them out in the networking sessions. And also, if you do need a wee bit of a break and you're a bit overwhelmed, there is a nice quiet space where you can take your cup of tea and have a nice chill time. I'm going to pass over to Abbie. So she works for NESBiP and she's a co-host today as well. My name's Lauren as well, I should have said that. And she's going to take you through housekeeping and kick off our first talk. So
for my talk, I'm going to talk a bit about NESBiP, introduce it very quickly, because I'm sure most of you in this room know who we are already. I just want to, just in case there's anyone that doesn't, I'll talk about our Big Five campaign and a little bit about BioBlitzers and try and encourage you to do a little bit of BioBlitzing, which will link to Aileen's talk, hopefully. So first off, I like to introduce myself before I introduce NESBiP, because it'll describe to you a bit more about what NESBiP is, what we do, hopefully. So hello, I'm Abbie Ferrar. I'm the NESBiP Biodiversity Coordinator. I'm the sole employee for the partnership. So I do everything. I have a background in marine biology, environmental education and community outreach, so I know a little about a lot, is what I like to say. What does that actually mean for NESBiP? So I work with the partners, I share biodiversity information and advice, I raise awareness, so like with days like this, and I point people in the right direction. So I always say, if you come to me and I don't know the answer, I will find somebody that does. So don't be afraid to come and ask me a question. So in summary, I coordinate biodiversity in the Northeast, if my job title didn't explain that. So what is NESBiP? So NESBiP is the Northeast Scotland Biodiversity Partnership. In summary, we take action for biodiversity through partnership. We started in 1996 and we were one of 4 pilot partnerships. There's people in this room that will know more about the history of that. So if you want to know more about that, I will find them for you. So we were it was a direct action from the Biodiversity UK Action Plan, which by UK Gov, and we were a local biodiversity action plan, so an LBAP. So we have 3 partnership objectives that we follow. It's delivery through collaboration, information exchange, and then awareness and positive action. And I'm going to concentrate mainly on the awareness and positive action one today. And last but not least, I always like to try this one. We're a bit unique because we don't sit in a local authority. So most of the LBAPs sit within a local authority, whereas I work across 3 local authorities, which is these 3. So the ones in blue, they're the ones that I work across. The line on this line here, anything from that side is where I work. Sometimes I do sneak into this bit and this bit over here, but don't tell the Cairngorms. So that's about 9% population of Scotland, 8% of land cover. So it's a big area I cover. And these are just some of our partners. So we range from businesses, small networks, small charities, small organisations, big organisations. We are funded by the City, Shire, Moray, Ithaca and Scottish Forestry. And then I sit in the Hutton, so I'm a Hutton employee, so I get the perks of being in the Hutton. So how do I do it all? So one of the big things we do is community outreach. So we go out, we do wildflower workshops, sizing workshops. I join projects that are already happening. So the third picture along is me helping at Banbury Belfield car park with Deeside Can and Banbury Primary, planting some things in the car park verge. So sometimes I pop along to see what other people are doing. And we do BioBlitzers, which is the one on the end. That was at St Macca's Cathedral. We also have a developers hub, so this is created by the 3 local authorities. This is advice for ecologists, developers, or just people that are interested in knowing about it. And we've got lists of important species and habitats and areas. We also do collaborative conservation projects. So we do BioBlitz events, wildflower and scything workshops, hedgerow planting, tree planting. We have a camera trap load scheme. If you want to know more about that, on our table, we have a camera trap. So if you want to borrow one for 3 months. And then we have big project initiatives. So we've got the NESBiP Big 5 currently going. So this is an old project that we're reinstating. So what is it? It's a campaign to support 5 species and habitats that are in NESBiP's area. It was a follow-up from 2015. I think I got that day right. 2014. 2014. Thanks, Ewan. So in 2014, he emailed me recently with the correct date. I just done the correct thing. So this was a thing from 2014, which was the Northeast Big 5, which was 5 different species. They are lists of habitats and species that follow these 3 criteria. So they're found in the Northeast, they're of conservation concern, and it's where local action can take and help. So even if you live in a flat, you should be able to help one of these Big 5 in some way or another. And then we each have a local champion, which most of them are in the room with us today. So if you have any questions about the Big 5, I'll point you in the direction of those. So the idea is they know more than I do. So I ask them for advice if I need it. So the 5 that we've got hedgehog, northern damselfly, common swift, native willow species, and then mixed native hedgerow species. So really quickly, because I don't have much time, I will tell you about which one, why they matter, what's happening, and what you can do. So hedgehogs are cute. I think pretty good reason. They're a sign of a healthy green space as well. So they eat slugs and snails that you don't want, eat grubs, and so if you're a gardener, you want them in your garden. They are declining. We're losing habitat. We're losing safe corridors. People are removing their front garden and creating driveways, so they're losing that space. So what you can do is create highways. So leave wild spaces, have a gap in your fence, stop using pesticides if you're using them. And then last but not least, always report your sightings, whether dead or alive. So even dead records of hedgehogs are useful, particularly roadkill. So the northern damselfly, this is actually endemic to the northeast. It's only found in the northeast of Scotland and the UK. You can't find it anywhere in the UK. So incredibly important. The way you ID it is it's got, I've circled it just, why do I never use my pointer? So I've circled it here. It's got like a little ace of spades sign on it. So that's how you ID it. They're not very big. So you might need to take photos of them to get them. What's happening? They're sensitive to habitat change. So you remove your pond, you remove edges of ponds, they're declining. What you can do, you can protect your water's edges. If you've got suitable habitat to create a pond, record your sightings. Always the last one. It's going to be a repeat. So always record your sightings if you've got them, so we can get a better understanding of how the population are doing. If you look on the NESBReC website, you can actually see that they're mainly on the D side, along the D. So yeah, Vivian will talk about northern damsel in more detail later. So we've got swifts. They're also cute. If you don't think they're cute, maybe I'm just weird, or maybe Callie's weird as well. She thinks they're cute too. So they're iconic to summer. They've declined by 63%, so they are declining fast. Their nest sites are disappearing, so they're 100% faithful to the nest sites. So if the nest sites go, they go. Insects are declining, so that means their food sources are going. And the shifting climates are affecting it, like most things are affecting it. So some of the things you can do is you can plant your meadows. So if you plant a meadow, you're going to get more insects, therefore more food. You can protect any known nesting sites. So if you know of nesting sites, tell people. And if you know of areas that could have nest boxes, you can let hunting swifts know if they're looking for places they can install swift boxes. So always report your sightings. Common theme. So particularly nests that you know are already there. So this helps with development. So if people want to extend their house or fix a roof and put scaffolding up, if they don't know swifts are there nesting, they're gonna go up. So if you're aware of the swifts being on a location, please report them. It's really important. native willow. Why it matters, they're super important for early pollinators. So I saw my first bumblebee yesterday, so happy. So their pollen is really important for early pollinators, and they also protect riverbanks, so they stop erosion and things. So they're quite important for not just insects but also habitats. So hybridization is happening a lot. Not enough is being planted. People are chopping them down. So basically, what you can do is learn how to ID them, plant them if you can, and then just spread the news about how wonderful and important they are. And then obviously report your sightings. So if you know any, report your sightings. So mixed hedgerows, so this is the last one. Why they're important, they're vital highways for hedgehogs, for example. They're food source for berries, for birds. They're also really good sheltering for livestock. So for farmers, they're really good as well. They are being overcut, removed. Poor management is one, so with big gaps, so they're not being, there's big gaps in them, they're not well enough. What you can do, you can plant them if you've got the space, cut less often. So if you've got them, cut less often. Spread the word of the importance. If you have gaps in them, you can plant fast-growing berry species in the gaps to make them better. So, and then report sightings, particularly if they're like native trees. So there is a list of native trees that we'd like to, that are good for the hedgers. So particularly if you know where those native trees are, you can report your sightings. So in summary for this is check our website for lots of advice, whether you're a community group or an individual or a business. Learn about the big five so you can do more for them. There's no such thing as a stupid question, so don't be afraid to ask me. If I, like I say, if I don't know the answer, I will find somebody that does. Collaboration is crucial, so don't feel like you're on your own. Like there's people out there that can help. Come and ask for help. We can help you. We can do this together. And then I've realised I've not put the BioBlitz slide in, so I'm ever so sorry. I forgot to put that in. So basically, a BioBlitz, I'll do it in summary. Basically, a BioBlitz is a 24-hour spot where you collect as much data as possible in one green space. So that can be your garden, as big, as small as your garden, or as big as a city. So, and that's as many records as possible in a 24-hour period. And we have one on the 14th of August that's happening in the city. So if you'd like to be involved, find me and show you more details, or I'll email more details. But this is all my contact details and social media. We have a newsletter. We have a wildlife gardening group that's got over 4,000 members now. It is now a private group just so we can manage the numbers. But this is a really great source for advice. So people on there that know much more about wildlife gardening than I do. People are offering seeds. There's someone offering pond plants at the moment for free. Events go on there. So it's a really good, just a really good free resource if you want to do more for wildlife. And a wildlife garden doesn't need to be your backyard or your front yard. It could be anything. So it could be a golf course. It can be an allotment, it can be anything you want it to be. It's just about creating safe spaces for biodiversity.
I'd like to introduce Rinki. So Rinki's from the NESCAN Hub. She's a Community Development Officer, and she's going to be chatting to you about what NESCAN do, climate change and mental health. So over to Rinki.
Hello, hi. Can you hear me? Yeah. Just a heads up, if I stumble over my words, it's just part of my presentation, so just take it. So yeah, a warm welcome from NESCAN Hub. NESCAN Hub is basically Northeast Scotland Climate Action Network, and I'm Rinki Kanakrah. I'm Community Development Officer. So our vision is basically a sustainable Northeast Scotland with connected, empowered, and active communities at its heart. And we aim to support and develop community-led climate action throughout Aberdeen City and Shire. We support communities to be a part of just transition to a sustainable Northeast Scotland and contributing to local, regional, and national policy setting and decision making. So what we do and how we do it, we develop community knowledge, resilience, skills, and expertise in climate change and biodiversity and related action. And we also empower communities. How we do it, we map, celebrate, and prompt the application of local community-led climate action, signposts to other organizations when and where necessary, provide funding support, facilitate peer support, and enable community voices within policy setting and decision making. So these are the highlights of last year. Last year, we've got all the numbers for you there. So, but let me just focus on some of our major events. That is the Enviolution and Climate Week Northeast. So Enviolution, Enviolution Aberdeen, it's a free one-day environmental festival with eco-friendly stalls, games, workshops, performances, food and more. It was run at Seaton Park for the last 2 years, and we're looking forward to the third year on 5th of September. Climate Week Northeast, it's a community-led program that brings people and organizations together across Aberdeen and Aberdeenshire to take action on climate change. It has been running for 11 years and was first started by Aberdeen Climate Action and now is organized by NESCAN Hub. So during the week, there are activities across the city and shire like beach cleaning, litter picks, workshops, and community events and so on. So we've also added a lot of new resources on our website, and you can definitely go and check out there. Moving on, before I jump into the context, I'd like to give a short content note. We will be discussing about mental health, and some of the topics may be upsetting. So please remember, you can step out anytime, and you do not have to share anything personal, and support resources will be shared at the end. So what does climate change mean, and does it impact our health and well-being? Climate change, it is often discussed in environmental or political terms. So today's focus is health. It affects physical health through heat, air pollution, and food systems. It affects mental health through stress, anxiety, and uncertainty. This framing shifts the conversation from abstract, this is just not my tech, so abstract to personal and immediate. Often we think climate change, we picture about polar bears or melting ice caps. So the UK Home Office for Health Improvement and Disparity says climate crisis has an important impact on health. So it is also about us. Extreme weather, higher living costs, poor housing, all these are connected. And it's not just about our physical health, it's also about our emotional and mental well-being. But how exactly does it affect our health and well-being? So let me show you this diagram where illustrating how climate change from rising temperature to floods and droughts affects well-being. Sometimes the impact is direct. Extreme heat, losing your home, crop failures, displacement. Sometimes it is indirect. Constant exposure to wildfire coverage, economic instability, or feeling leaders aren't just acting enough. The results: increased mental distress, higher suicide risk in affected regions, worsening physical health, and erosion of community stability. So let's stop for a moment and consider, how does this make you feel? Would anyone like to share? How does this make you feel?
Sad.
Yeah.
Worried.
Yes, absolutely. Whatever reaction arises, fear, sadness, worriness, numbness, frustration, that response is not irrational. It is adaptive. These reactions occur because climate change destabilizes the building blocks of well-being: social connection, physical health, financial security, safety and security. When these foundations are threatened, the nervous system responds. Stress increases, loss generates grief. This is not weakness, it is just a biological response to perceived instability. So when the distress becomes persistent or collective, researchers have given it a language. It's called climate anxiety, eco-distress, or nostalgia. Climate anxiety is basically refers to ongoing worry about climate impacts or future instability. Whereas eco-distress, it's a broader, it can be fear, anger, or sadness, or even guilt when we see someone harming the environment. And so nostalgia is basically, it's a distress feeling of loneliness created by environmental concerns. So naming these experiences serves two functions. First one, it validates them, and it reduces isolation. So this climate emotions wheel was created by a researcher like Kanakrah and shared by Climate Mental Health Network. It shows that climate change can trigger fear, sadness, anger, but also empowerment, hope, gratitude, and inspiration. So every one of these emotions is normal and valid. Feeling them means you care. So fear can lead to panic or anxiety, but also motivates us to act. Sadness shows us we value what is being lost, but grief can be shared. Anger, indignation, and outrage can fuel activism. But positivity, hope, inspiration, and gratitude helps us keep going. So let's pause. Looking at this wheel, do you see an emotion that stands out for you today? Yeah, hope. That's good. Thank you. Yeah.
Empathy, positivity, empathy.
Thank you. Okay. So this guide also suggests certain management strategies. You could acknowledge the feelings, like name it, and then connect with others. Loneliness reduces isolation. Reframe anger into action and grief into empathy. Balance, that is by hope and gratitude alongside the hard emotions. So this framework shifts the conversation from how do we stop feeling this to how do we work with what we are feeling. Where can we find support? So you could be a part of nature restoration. So evidence shows that green spaces reduces cortisol levels, outdoor activities improves mood regulations, and restoration builds agency. We also have mental health and well-being support. So this not just by environmental harm or climate anxiety, even just because, yeah, life pressures, you could also reach out to these mental health and well-being support. We've got Breathing Space Scotland. It's a free helpline number. We also have climate-focused peer support, that is Climate Alliance Psychology, where you can access to online support groups and resources on their website, and you can also get help through therapy. So this is specifically for climate anxiety, climate distress, anything around it. And we also have online resources such as mindfulness apps, structured well-being courses, support that supports nervous system regulation. So self-guided approaches like the Active Hope model and Climate Emotions Guide can help translate concern into value-driven action. You can also be a part of an action by being a part of climate action organizations such as Aberdeen Climate Action, and Scotland has 24 hubs empowering communities. NESCAN hub is one such. Yeah. So we are a member organization, community groups who are directly or indirectly taking action against the climate emergency. Some of our projects cover the following themes: community energy, education and awareness, through climate literacy, land and nature, climate know-how, circular economy, active travel, and health and well-being. So as a community development officer, my job is to support these members to action. These projects, be it helping an idea get off the ground or just connecting them to someone who knows more than I do. We have lots of projects looking for volunteers. That could be a great place for you to start. So find a group of like-minded people. Talking to others who feel the same way can alleviate feelings of helplessness. NESCAN Hub has over 400 members covering a large range of actions. Sorry about that. And if there is a particular area of interest, just get in touch with us and we can introduce you. I'd like to end my conversation with a short read here. So, So we need to realize how perfect the life that nature gives truly is. We have evolved within our systems of human biology. Our nervous system regulates through daylight cycles, physical movements, social bonding, and exposure to natural environment. When those rhythms are disrupted, stress increases. The cost is visible in rising anxiety, sleep disturbances, loneliness, and chronic stress. Not because progress is wrong, but because imbalance creates psychological strain. So the question is not whether modern society is good or bad. The question is whether we remain connected to our biological and ecological roots while participating in this progress. So climate change intensifies this disconnection. When natural system destabilizes, our internal system destabilizes. The loss is not only environmental, it is psychological, emotional, and mental. Community resilience restores part of that balance. Collective action reconnects people to land and to each other. Nature restoration is not nostalgia, it is regulation, it is preventative mental health. So it is a return to alignment. So the central reflection is progress without grounding leads to fragility. Connection to nature builds resilience. So before we wrap up, let's shake off some of that heavy stuff we talked about. We've covered some really important and emotional topics. So now it's time to bring the energy back up. It's amazing how a small action can shift our mood. And it's the same with climate action. Small positive steps add up. So think about the things that you can do today because climate change is a health crisis operating across various domains. The protective factor is connection to community, to action, and to nature. Resilience is built collectively, not individually. So become a member of NESCAN Hub, take an action towards climate change, make use of NESCAN Hub's climate action resources, whether you're starting a community climate group or already running a project or looking to reduce your carbon footprint. We've got you covered. Hence, take the opportunity today to breathe, stretch, and connect.
NESBReC is going to talk to you a bit about the importance of biological recording.
Thanks for inviting me along. So I'm Aileen Salway, and I am the NESBReC coordinator along with Emma Sheehy, who's here today as well. We work for NESBReC. So I'm going to chat about.
Could you step closer to the?
Oh, sorry, you're not hearing it from the microphone. So I'm going to talk about the importance of biological recording. Minutes here. Right, first of all, I'd like to explain a little bit about NESBReC. A lot of you know NESBReC already, so but we'll just do a quick summary of what we are. And obviously, I'm talking about biological recording. We deal with biological records, so it's very much what we are. We're focused for biodiversity information in the northeast of Scotland, and you can see on the map there the area that we cover. So we're from Murray down to Angus and Cairngorms National Park through Aberdeenshire to Aberdeen City. So we store data and we bring it in and then we share that data out. But what is, for you, what is biological recording? And it's basically just noticing species presence or activity. So it's noticing what's out and about and recording that. So these are just some things that have popped up on the last few while. So last year, the top left picture there is magpie moths. Lots of people were seeing thousands of magpie moths on the hill, and we're noticing it, saying, what is this? So recording them. In the bottom picture, we've got a field fare, so it's a migrant thrush coming in here in the winter, so that was just photographed in a garden. And then you might see activity that indicates the presence of a species. We've got a badger set, so you're not seeing the badger, but you're able to kind of like interpret what you're seeing and create a record from that. Records are made of just 4 basic pieces of information: the what, the where, the when, and who. And for like an example here, that the what is just the species that you're seeing, the where is the location name along with a grid reference, and grid references are very easy to generate these days on phones and using apps. The date, which can be like a day or a period of time, and then the recorder's name, because the recorder who's recording that piece of information, if we know that, then if we've got queries or it's a very significant record, then we can go back and check. So that's what a record is, but why bother? You know, it does take a little bit of time to record, but what is the point of doing that? And the point is that what you see is specific to what you're doing, where you're going, and what your interests are. And if we don't record, then if it's not recorded, we don't know what is where. And as I say, each person's record is unique, and it collectively adds to a bigger picture. So this picture here on the left is a bee beetle, and I've pulled out the records for the bee beetle that are in our data set. And you can start to see that it's in Murray, it's in like Speyside, it's along the Dee there. And that starts to tell you a little bit about that species. And actually for this species, it likes dead wood, it likes birch. So it's like associated with birch woodlands, but also it likes to have like flowery meadows. And you can see here in a thistle. So the adults need the flowers as well. So that's telling you a little bit about the species. The data that's collected is useful. So individuals collecting data for what they see can help to create things such as the Mammal Atlas. So NESBReC produced a Mammal Atlas in 2017. And here is documented the changes that have happened with pine martens. I'm sure that a lot of you will be very aware. So like the older records here before 2000 are based around sort of the Abbie Moor area. And then the darker records, the triangles, you can see that they've spread all the way across. And hopefully we'll do another exercise of creating a Mammal Atlas again before too long. And I expect that there'll be a lot more like dark triangles showing on the next one. But that's a species that's recovered. Another reason why to bother is it's an enjoyable thing to do. So recording out with exercise and fresh air, for me, it certainly gives me some mental health benefits to be out and about. In terms of, like we're chatting there about eco-anxiety, it's a way that you can feel that you're contributing in a small way to understanding the bigger picture of what species are doing out in the environment. And it's a great way of learning firsthand about nature. The things that you see that are personal to you, where you live, your garden, the area, immediate area around you, it helps you to learn about what's there and to kind of like remember it much more fundamentally than if somebody is to tell you about it. And that data makes a direct contribution to conservation and research. So in fact, actually going back to that picture, it can be a personal thing. So in the bottom middle there, somebody's putting out, that's an SRUC student from the past, putting out a camera trap, so they're kind of like looking at nocturnal activity of mammals. The bottom left, this is a picture from a BioBlitz, some girls with binoculars looking at what species are in their playing fields. So that was at Alfred Academy, we were doing a BioBlitz there. We run training courses, so the picture on the bottom right, some Aberdeen students looking closely at some plants and trying to keep them out, learn species. And then picture at the top there of a few of us trying to find bumblebees. So the database, the NESBReC database, we're nearly up to 3 million species. So that's species records. We also have habitat records, but that really is on the back of volunteer effort. It's people noticing what's out and about in their immediate area and letting us know, or participating in surveys that are run by various different organisations. That data helps us to see changing species distribution. So these are some photos that have been taken in our area. So on the left, holly blues are now seen in like Aberdeen City, Aberdeen Shire. So I think the first records were 2023. The year before that, the nearest was down in Perth. So that's a species that's moved very rapidly north. Another species moving north is the comma in the middle there. I get these in my garden now in Bankery. That would have been, I had a butterfly jigsaw when I was a child. That was exotic, you know, so it's really changed. And obviously species are moving north, and it's good to record that. The bee there is the red mason bee, and that's another species moving north, but also kind of like patterns affected by human activity, because this is a bee that you can actually order online. So people buying them and releasing them. I went in and pulled out some data from our speckled wood distribution. So that's the butterfly in the top right there. And this is it's just a simple kind of like pull out of some data that's in our data set, with the one proviso that some Angus data, butterfly data, is not in our database yet. So the Angus, there's a blank there, but when we do get that data, there may have been a few dots down in that area. So speckled wood is quite strong around the Muddy Firth, where it's a bit warmer, and also further down south. So that's pre-2000. And then we take some extra maps just from our database, and you can see 2000 to 2009 is spreading. There's some records over in Aberdeen, and then 2010 to 2025, so it's a slightly longer period, but you can just see that the amount of recording of this species has increased a lot, and it's really strong in Deeside, alongside Aberdeen, whatever. So that's a real example of how a species has spread, and just individual records feeding into our understanding of what they're doing. So be curious, go out and notice stuff. I've got an example here. You've probably seen this in the media. Paul, who is a recorder, sending records to NESBReC. He was out for a walk, and he just happened to see this on the beach in November by Newborough, and kind of like was curious. He said, "What is this?" and posted on Facebook, and he maybe got a wee bit more than he was expecting. But it turned out to be the 7-armed octopus, or giant gelatinous octopus, that lives below 500 meters in the sea. So obviously it's a bit of a kind of like outlier, sort of turning up in Newborough, but there are very few of these recorded. And as a result of him noticing this and it being picked up, people came and took samples of this, because they're so rarely found that actually to get tissue samples was important. And that is a record that has now gone into NESBReC. So be curious, what you're seeing, maybe nobody else is seeing. Another example, a sort of a very strange-looking sort of line of insects. This is a picture that I took off the internet, and it's there's lots of little dark-headed larvae, and they're marching across the woodland floor. So somebody saw this in the Toronto Woods, I think it was, last year or the year before. And there's the NESBReC database had no data for it, but also the NBN had no data for it. So I've since found that there was a record from perhaps, I think, 2004 in the southwest of Scotland. But this is a New Zealand species, and has presumably come in plants or something similar. Invasives, if you're recording invasives, it helps people to take action. So there's someone here from CC today. So that information can be passed on to the Scottish Invasive Species Initiative, who like to do project work. It can be passed on to councils, so that they can, if it's on council land, they can tackle it. We've got giant hogweed on the left, Japanese knotweed on the right, and then a new one that's come in the Muddy Firth is the slipper limpet. So that information enables action. We do data searches, so the data that comes into us eventually then feeds into data searches that can be done for local authorities, environmental consultants, researchers, students, recording groups, communities and individuals. And that feeds into decision making, whether at a local level or kind of like at a higher level. And the map on the right there is just an example of the Cooper swarm records that were pulled out and looked at in relation to the kind of pale purple of the local nature conservation sites to help feed into decisions being made on status. So it is important to record what you see. When you submit a wildlife record, we will verify that data. That data then becomes available for research, conservation, decision making, and data helps nature. If we know what's there, then it means that we can you can basically take decisions with full information. So if you send in records, they can be sent to us at NESBReC. We have an online recording form. Yeah, you can send that in like via Excel spreadsheets. There's lots of surveys out there. I'm sure today we'll hear about some of the surveys that you can get involved with. This is one that the Urban Nature Project has a nice calendar that you can find on the website if you Google a wildlife recording, I think probably. And if you are interested in improving your identification skills, we run training courses. These are the subjects of recent training courses last year. So come get onto our mailing list and come out and learn more about nature, improve your ID skills. And if you're using apps such as iRecord, we can access that data and bring it into our database. But make sure that you make that data as open as possible by choosing CC BY or CC0 privacy settings, because that lets us disseminate the information without any complications. I did have a slide with saying thank you to all the folks that have sent in records. So a big thank you if you sent in records. I know that some of you here send in a good number of records. We have a stand, so if you want to come and get a leaflet, which has got our email address and all the website details, please do that. And thank you very much for listening to my talk.
So we have Annie. So talk about insects. You stand like this, Annie, and I'm supposed to get up a bit better.
Great. Hi, yes, I'm Annie. Oh, there's a mistake with my name here. Should I spell that one?
That's probably me. That's probably me.
Annie Ives. I am with the Rare Invertebrates project in the Cairngorms. And yeah, I'm going to talk a bit about connecting with nature through insect conservation, but mainly from the point of view of some volunteers that work on our project with us. So I'm relatively new to this role with RSPB. Prior to that, I worked at Bumblebee Conservation Trust for 8 years, but insects are kind of my thing. And yeah, I think it's been really nice to see them mentioned in quite a few of the presentations that have been already, but they can be quite overlooked in kind of like hidden areas of the world. Just a little bit of an introduction about insects, because I love them. These are all facts from the Royal Entomologists website, so hopefully they're accurate. So there's over 1 million species of insects across the world, but potentially there could be 9 million more that are undiscovered. So scientists think there could be 10 million species of insects on Earth. They're numerous. There's 1.4 billion insects for every single person on the Earth. So they really are kind of everywhere. Oh yeah, there we go. Just that. 1.4 billion insects for every person on the Earth. 90% of all animal species on the planet are insects, and they're found on every continent and almost every habitat. So insects have, there's like one species of midge, I think, that's been found in Antarctica. But yeah, they're found everywhere. If we think about kind of in the local context, you know, from the city in Aberdeen and sea to the mountaintops in the Cairngorms, we've got insects found everywhere. And they're really important. So they're really important in their own right. They're kind of fun to be around. Like bumblebees, for example, are very cute. I noticed the first two presentations both had pictures of bumblebees on them because they're like charismatic and engaging and nice to see. But there are other insects that perhaps aren't as cute but still do really important jobs, like nutrient recycling and even kind of, you know, the slugs and snails in your garden that you might be feeding the hedgehogs with. They all kind of have their place and kind of, yeah, make the world go round essentially. So the Rare Invertebrates in the Cairngorms project that I work on focuses on 5 specific insect species, invertebrate species, which are found within the Cairngorms. They're chosen because they're particularly rare or critically endangered in some cases, and this region is really a stronghold for them. So I'm just going to go through them one by one. So we've got 2 moths, 2 hoverflies, and a bee that we kind of conserve as part of this project. And it's a massive partnership between these organisations that you can see at the bottom here. So we've got RSPB, Butterfly Conservation, the Royal Zoological Society of Scotland, the National Park Authority in Cairngorms, and Nature Scot, all working together as part of this partnership to protect these rare species. So the dark border beauty is a really beautiful, as the name suggests, little moth, which is found in the Cairngorms, and that's actually only found at 3 kind of locations across the whole of the UK. So it's found on Deeside and Speyside in Scotland, and then 1 random kind of site in Yorkshire. And yeah, Deeside is a bit of a stronghold for it in particular. So as part of this kind of partnership with Rare Invertebrates and Cairngorms, we do lots of habitat creation, but a key thing is the monitoring and the surveying of these species. We've had Aileen talking about the importance of biological recording. And yeah, a big part of what our volunteers do for us is kind of going out and surveying for these insects. So dark border beauty is 1. Then we've got the Kentish glory moth, which is a really spectacular moth on the wing. Next month, hopefully, we'll start surveying for that species. This, as the name suggests, Kentish glory, used to be really widespread and kind of quite common down in south of England. It's now extinct in England. I think the last record was maybe from the 1970s or something. And now it's only found in Scotland, and again, strongholds kind of around Deeside and Speyside, with a few kind of Highland Perthshire and Moray records as well. Then we've got the aspen hoverfly, which is a really important little hoverfly that lays its eggs in aspen old deadwood trees. It's quite specific about its requirements, and it's quite interesting that my colleague showed me, you can kind of tell when an aspen dead tree is suitable for aspen hoverfly to lay their eggs in it, because if you dig under the bark, it smells like marzipan. I'm not really sure, like, kind of, it must be the scent of the decay that attracts them to it, but apparently that's a good sign. If you sniff the bark, it smells like marzipan. Potentially there could be aspen hoverfly larvae in there. Then pine hoverfly, which is again a really rare, critically endangered insect, which has been subject of reintroductions as part of this project. So these hoverflies, and actually dark border beauty moths as well, are being captive bred at Highland Wildlife Park and reintroduced to areas within the Cairngorms where they were perhaps found historically. And we're doing lots of habitat work to kind of, you know, support populations that are being introduced. So it's kind of like a big kind of multi-pronged project. But the pine hoverfly was restricted down to only 1 site in the north of the Cairngorms, where there were around about 50 individuals left, it was estimated, in the whole of the UK. And they're now being bred in their tens of thousands at the wildlife park and released. I think we've got 6 or 7 sites now across the Cairngorms where they can be found. But obviously, as part of that, the monitoring is really important to see how those populations are going. And then the last but not least, we have a small scabious mining bee at the bottom there, which is a type of solitary bee, which is strongly associated with levels of scabious. And in Scotland, again, this is quite restricted to the Cairngorms area. It's got a bit of a stronghold in Speyside. It's never yet been recorded in Deeside, but one of my jobs is to find it for the first time. In England, it is kind of
patchy distribution around the south of England, but in Scotland it's only really found in Speyside, and then there's definitely Davia records. So yeah, those are our species that we work on. We've got 3 project officers at the moment. Historically, the project's been running since around 2017, and there was just one project officer kind of trying to look after all these species on their own. So the volunteers are really important for us to be able to do the breadth of work that we do. We've got 3 project officers now as of January. My role is as based on D-side to kind of, I guess, reinforce some of the work in Aberdeenshire. A lot of the project has been focused more around the Speyside area, so I'm going to be running kind of some of these surveys and habitat work on the D-side region. But I just wanted to share kind of thinking about nature connectedness, and we heard from Rinki's presentation about the importance of connecting with nature as part of kind of health and well-being. I just wanted to share some of the experiences of our volunteers and kind of why they've been involved in the project and what they've got out of it. And I want you to kind of bear in mind throughout this as well, the 5 ways to well-being, which are kind of promoted through the NHS as kind of ways to improve your mental health. So those are to give time, give yourself, to be active, to connect is one of them, which is obviously important, to take notice, which I think is really key, and kind of links to what Aileen was saying about biological recording as well, just like noticing what is out there. And the last one is to keep learning. And I'm definitely learning, but I think everybody's learning so much about just being out in nature and noticing different things, and we're learning so much about the ecology of these species in particular and how we can then protect them going forward. So just kind of think about those themes as I go through some of these volunteer quotes, because I think it links quite nicely. So this is a quote from one of our small-scale mining bee surveyors, who said, "What a thrill when it's found, and so much so much else is seen when out walking relatively slowly." So that's being active, that's taking notice, that's kind of all of these good things. And look at the beautiful bee as well, the scabious there. They're really kind of small, but when you notice them, it is exciting. It is cool. We've got a quote here from one of our pine hoverfly volunteers who said, "Sitting on a heather-covered hillside in the sun with an amazing view while counting larvae." And I found this photo in our archives that I felt like perfectly pictured that quote. And yeah, they didn't come together. I managed to match them up. I was like, oh yeah, you did sit on a hillside in the sun. So yeah, this is looking at pine hoverfly larvae in one of our woodland sites where we're putting in kind of artificial habitat and then monitoring to see whether there's wild breeding and how kind of successful the reintroductions are. And I think for me, one of the things joining this project that's going to surprise in some ways is, like I said previously, I worked for the Bumblebee Conservation Trust for 8 years, and it was quite easy to get people engaged with bumblebees. So they're really fluffy, really charismatic. People just seem to be drawn to them. And when I think about these volunteers, what they're essentially doing is looking for maggots in sawdust. And I think, gosh, you guys are amazing and committed, you know? Like, I don't think everybody would find that little pine hoverfly larva maggot on the right-hand side there, you know, the most engrossing thing to look for. But it's kind of almost inspired me and given me hope. I think we were talking about in the mental health talk that Rinki did, about, you know, seeing other people's enthusiasm for these maggots essentially has really kind of like, yeah, boosted me in terms of kind of hope for the future. And if you want to be involved in that, then let me know. So I've got a few more quotes here just to share. So this is Aileen Mothers, who's our pine hoverfly species champion. She said, "Some of the things volunteering has meant for me are developing a better understanding of the complexity of woodland and how all plants and animal species need each other. and being closely involved in the conservation project for one particular species of insect and seeing its successful progress over a number of years has been very fulfilling. And again, I think that kind of links to that kind of hope theme and positivity for the future. This is another pine hoverfly volunteer. It said, I'm motivated to volunteer as a way of contributing something positive, since I feel so much in our world is so desperately negative. I volunteer because I like spending time outside and going places where I otherwise wouldn't go, to be part of a group, to feel connected and in search of a sense of belonging. Oh, and to learn about the conservation and restoration of rare invertebrates. So for this person, you know, it is that connection and the being outside and the kind of health and well-being side of it that is really important. And perhaps the insects come second to that, but you know, that's just, I think, really nice to hear as well. And then finally, I've got another quote here from Belinda in the room, who said, I've always loved butterflies and bumblebees. After I began to actively record them, it didn't take long before I began to notice a wide range of invertebrates. They're so intriguing, and now they get recorded too. And again, that links back to the kind of taking notice and giving your time, I think, as part of these kind of ways to well-being, and how we can kind of all, be a part of nature and be connected to it. So with that in mind, hopefully I've inspired you that volunteering is a wonderful thing. So now I'm going to ask you to volunteer for me. And we've got a couple of opportunities coming up, looking for these particular moths across the side. So we'll be trapping for dark border beauty moths round about, Helen, I should see Helen in the room, June, July time, I think. And then on the right hand side is Kentish Glory, and surveys for that will start next month in April. And I've got these posters printed out. They're on the bee walk table I'm sharing with the Bumblebee Conservation Trust. So you can scan the tiny QR codes and get more information about how to be a part of that. And then I just wanted to mention some other ways to kind of get involved in the sector conservation and volunteer as well. So as I mentioned, Bumblebee Conservation Trust have a stall in the foyer where Belinda and Lucy have more information about the bee walk scheme, which is a really kind of fun thing to do. But basically a monthly walk where you just record all the bumblebees you see, count all the bumblebees you see, and send your data into Bumblebee Conservation Trust. Walk that through March and October. And it's a really nice way to be active, take notice, and contribute something positive to science as well. And then on the right hand side, the Pollinator Monitoring Scheme is another citizen science programme where essentially you just sit and watch a patch of flowers for 10 minutes and count all the insects that land on those flowers. And again, it's part of a bigger thing, part of a big citizen science project. So your data gets fed into the kind of database that looks at how pollinator distributions and abundances are kind of changing over time. So yeah, lots of different ways to get involved, and lots happening in Aberdeenshire and across the Cairngorms, which is really exciting, hopefully, and as I said, hopefully gives you guys as much hope and inspiration as it does me for the future. So if you'd like to find out more about opportunities like the work we're doing and volunteer opportunities, there's a QR code there where you can sign up to receive our quarterly newsletter for more information. Thank you.
Thank you, Annie. That was really interesting. So that wraps up our first cohort of speakers. So now we're going to open the floor to some questions. So if we can invite all the speakers from session 1 to come and grab a chair. The front, don't be shy. If you've got a question, please pop your hand up and one of our team will come around with a microphone.
I'll also like to get my question in first. This one is about the Northeast Big Five. One, is there a specific publicity campaign targeted at a wider audience to contribute records of the Big Five? As Aileen said, that's crucially important. And secondly, are you going to have some publicity of good examples of hedgerow, mixed species hedgerows, and more importantly, the good management of hedgerows, real ones?
Yes, thank you. I always know Ewan's going to ask a question first. I've been working with James Hutton's media officer, and a press release has already gone out, but we're going to regularly send that out to people. SRUC have sent me some examples as well that I'm going to sort of work on and seal. I've also been speaking to a farmer up in Buchan, I want to say, who has all of the big five, and he would like to go out as a case study and show us how he does it and how other people do it. He's a part of the Nature Friendly Farming Network, so that's how I met him. And then we also have the Murray Farm Cluster here today, and I was going to pick their brain to see if they have any good examples as well. Thank you. I just have been wondering, I'm Abbie Councillor in Florida. I've been wondering, and that's for all of you, how there is some oversight of actually who is monitoring and how many per year there are, so that you can kind of see, well, there is a species that's really doing very well in that area or large area. However, there's extremely very much a group of monitors there that are highly interested in that species. How can you kind of balance that, and how do we know? Thanks.
Yeah, for NESBReC, we hold the data, and the data is available, so people come to us for that data, and then we'll use it for research and things like that. So we try and encourage as many people to get involved in either sharing data to us or get involved in surveys. But we don't have an oversight as such in terms of, where there's gaps and whatnot. But I suppose in a way, where you've got particular needs, like sort of the northern damselfly, a particular species where you want to get more records, then we're more likely to have, like that last year, we had a training course looking at northern damselfly. So it tends to be more organic like that. We haven't got a big overview or whatever, but we are led by, when there's particular sort of data needs in that sense, we do both plan. And the same with pollinators. I mean, Abbie Council have a pollinator plan, and then like we have targets in terms of trying to run specific courses and looking at pollinators and encouraging recording of that. It is more organic, not as an oversight.
I think also all the kind of individual projects have a responsibility to make their data as publicly available as possible as well, whether that's sharing by, like we share our records with NESBReC so that they're then available and they'll feed into, as Aileen mentioned, the National Biodiversity Network. There are some circumstances where that's not possible. So some of the, for example, where we're reintroducing species, we can't make those sites kind of, publicly known about, and some sites are like with private landowners. So there's some kind of restrictions around like what data can be shared, but there are kind of systems in place for people to be able to access things as much as is possible.
In regards to thank you. So for species of hoverfly, naturally
Sorry, for the hoverfly. Is it green?
Don't shout. So, for species of bee, moths, and butterflies, they obviously have a very strong natural charisma to them that allows for very successful citizen science projects. For species of hoverfly, as you've mentioned, it tends to be far more of a niche interest. Is there any sort of, I guess, what would the general idea be to increase public perception of species like hoverflies?
It's a really good question, yeah. So I think, in case anyone didn't hear, it sounded like you're saying butterflies and moths are generally pretty well recorded. There's kind of national schemes for recording those species, and lots of people are involved in that. But for things like flies, they're less popular, and how do we get people more interested in those other insects. So I guess that's where things like the Rare Invertebrates Partnership has a really important role to play through our communications and publicity. Obviously, we are quite niche in that we just specifically work within the cairngorms area and on these particular species, but there are societies like the Diptera Society and the Malik Society in Scotland that focus on, I know you said it's a niche thing, there are niche people that focus on these niche things, and yeah, if you're particularly interested in you know, a type of insect, whether that's hoverflies or whatever, you will be able to find other people who are interested in that as well. It just might take a bit of digging. There's a really fantastic book out on hoverflies. I think there's a new edition published, the Roger Morris and Stuart Bull book, which is a good starter for kind of getting people interested in noticing the different types of hoverfly, because there's about 270 species across the UK. So yeah, definitely things to get stuck into. But I think it's that yeah, publicity and just sharing our enthusiasm with other people as well. When you're enthusiastic about something, it inspires other people. So yeah, just keep spreading the word, basically.
Hi. This question is for Aileen. This is quite loud. Are you interested in having submissions of dead animals submitted to NESBReC?
Yeah, so it doesn't need to be a rare species. It can be common species. It doesn't have to be alive. So roadkill, I mean, in fact, we had a request just this week for roadkill hedgehogs on roads. So that will feed into probably a kind of like a highways kind of assessment of like the impact like of roadkill. So that data, you know, we get data requests all the time, but sometimes it's quite specific. We've had data requests in the past looking for bat records where there's in the comments field it might say something about like if it had been a cat that had killed it. So yes is the answer. So and you know, I give you the kind of 4 basic pieces of information, like the what, where, who, and when. But there's also the potential to record the extra information, and like we have a comments field. You know, you could just write there that it's roadkill, or that, you know, something is an adult or a larvae or whatever. That extra information can be really helpful, and that's the sort of information that those data searches are trying to pull out. For example, the roadkill one. So yeah.
Another one for yourself, Sarah.
This will be our last question, but if you do have any more questions, please feel free to approach these guys. If you've got a question for Rinki, I've got some business cards. You will be back later this afternoon. Thank you. Go ahead.
Thank you. Do you need to be registered beforehand to give you records, or is it something that if you saw something odd, you can just go, right, what was that website again, and just look it up and do it straight off the bat without any kind of previous registration?
Yeah, you can just send your record in. Yeah, so on our website there's an online form, so you can just go on to that and send the record in. If you have a picture, I mean the picture of those invertebrates, the gnatflies coming across the woodland floor, that was a picture that got sent in to us. So you know if you see something unusual and you need more information, then we try and we've got a network of people, so I mean within NESBiP there's just 4 of us, and we have our own expertise, but like, you know, we don't know lots, you know, we're like there's lots of things that we don't have expertise in, so we have a network of experts that we can call in. So you know, we might go to Aileen regards bumblebees when you're in your bumblebee job, but you know, like it's we have connections outwards that we can sort of like help people with, but basically you don't need any registration like that. Just go to our website and send in a record, or if you're recording regularly and you're creating lots of records, then you can collate them on an Excel spreadsheet and send them in once a year or twice a year. So we're coming up a chat.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you for all the questions. So we're now going to have a 15-minute break. So please be back here.